How's it going, everyone? Welcome to another video of the Baking World Tour. Although in this episode, we're not baking, we're frying. We're making Mekitsi, which are Bulgarian donuts. Quite similar to a regular donut, but instead of milk, we're using yogurt. And instead of filling them, we're gonna top them with some nice blackberry sauce. And you can use any berries you like. I never imagined eating donuts with a knife and fork, but this is proper good. This might be the ultimate cheeky breakfast treat. So let's get to it and see what we need. For the dough, we'll need some strong white bread flour, yogurt, an egg, yeast, salt, sugar, some soft butter, and we're gonna add some lemon zest for an extra flavor. Now for the berry sauce, I'm gonna use some blackberries, which I got in the market. They're looking nice and plump, they're super tasty and sweet. We'll also need some honey, butter, a little bit of cinnamon, and a pinch of salt. A few little mint leaves for garnish. Some icing sugar for dusting. By the way, this tea strainer works perfectly for that job. And of course we'll need some oil for frying. I'm using plain vegetable oil. You want something that's neutral in taste. Now onto the equipment. We'll need a bowl, scales, a dough scraper, a temperature probe. We'll need a pan for frying, a pan for the sauce, and something to fish your donuts out of the oil with. I'm using this metal spoon. There's one more thing you'll need for the lemon zest, a fine grater. And that's all we need. So let's get to making our dough. Now first of all, I'm using cold yogurt and a cold egg. Kneading a small piece of dough like this by hand really warms it up. It's always better to start with cold ingredients. And if your dough is not at the right temperature once you finish mixing, then you can simply knead it for longer. But if it comes out too warm, there's not much you can do. And this recipe is so simple. In a large bowl, add all the ingredients except the flour. So we got the yogurt, the egg, salt, sugar, yeast, and the butter, and the lemon zest. Give it all a good mix. You want to dissolve any large salt and sugar crystals and hydrate the yeast. Now add the flour, grab your scraper and mix it to a dough. And if the scraper is not doing the job, continue on by hand. You want to mix it in a bowl until there's no more dry flour left. And only then tip it out on your table. We can start kneading. This dough is not sticky at all, so we're going to use a regular kneading method here. What I like to do is press down and forwards with the heel of my right hand, then using the fingers of my left hand I fold the piece of dough under the heel of my right hand, then turn it and repeat. And once you've done this a few times, the motion will become fluent. It will be like second nature. And because it's only a small piece of dough, it will only take around 5 minutes of kneading. And once it's nice and smooth and cohesive, pop it in a bowl and take its temperature. Around 25 to 26 degrees Celsius is just about right for this. But of course it all depends on the temperature of your kitchen. But this is about right for me. I'm going to cover it up and leave it to proof for 2 to 2.5 hours. It should almost double in size. As you can see, it's nicely puffed up, it's full of air. Now we can divide it. And again, to emphasize how easy this recipe is. We only did one proof, no folding in between. Now we're going to divide it and do the final shaping right away. I mean, normally I would divide, do a pre-shape, let the dough rest, and then do the final shape. But because the Bulgarian donuts are supposed to look a bit rustic, the uniformity is not really important. So I weighed my dough and divided it into 12 equal pieces. To shape it, simply flatten the piece of dough out, then fold the edge over the middle, going around in a circle until you reach the point where you started. Then tighten it against the table, and that's your dough ball done. And if you bake bread and do this quite often, your dough will start respecting you. And then you'll be able to do it by simply snapping your fingers. Sometimes I do wish it was this easy. Now get your dough balls on a plate or on a tray, cover them with cling film, and we'll leave them for the final proof. And again, we're looking for them to almost double in size. They should take around an hour to an hour and a half. Of course, it all depends on the temperature of your kitchen. Just keep an eye on your dough balls. If you think that they're not ready, leave them for longer. Or if they're fermenting too rapidly, simply cut the fermentation time down. But these ones are just about right. Now before you fry them, you need to stretch them out to get that Bulgarian shape. They're meant to be flat and quite rustic looking, like little fried donut pancakes. Of course you can fry them without stretching them, you'll end up with regular donuts. But regardless of what you do, drop them in the oil, they'll take around 4 to 5 minutes. And that will depend on the temperature of your oil. I would suggest 160 to 170 degrees Celsius, which is 320 to 340 Fahrenheit. And it goes without saying that your oil should be hot by the time your dough is finished proofing. Now fry your donuts for half the time on one side, then flip them over and finish on the other side. There's no need to flip them around back and forth. And be extra careful when you're doing stuff like this at home. If you have pets or kids or any distractions, get them out of the kitchen. Because if you do get distracted doing this, accidents will happen. Now drain your donuts on some kitchen paper or on a rack. You could also roll them around in sugar as soon as they come out of the oil. But we're going to dust them with icing sugar later on, so there's no need. And just look at that texture. Super nice and fluffy, full of air, really soft and tasty. But we're not finished yet. Now grab your small pan, add the butter, the honey, the cinnamon and a pinch of salt. This is how you make the quick 5-minute berry sauce. Now let's bring this over to the stove and place it on medium to high heat. All we need to do now is bring it up to a boil. This is really similar to how I made my caramelized bananas in my cruffin video. Of course, bananas are not as juicy as blackberries, so they stayed caramelized. The blackberries, on the other hand, they gave off a lot of juice, so we ended up having a nice little sauce. Once you've added the berries, just keep them boiling for around 3 minutes in total. Remember, the longer you cook them, the more they will break down. But how you like it, that is up to you. You can cook it for longer and make the sauce smoother, or you cook it less and have some whole blackberries in it. But regardless of what you do, grab some donuts, top them with a nice sauce, sprinkle them with plenty of icing sugar, like a nice thick layer. Finish with some fresh mint leaves, then tuck in. So what do you think of these Bulgarian donuts? Is it something you would try? Have you tried it before? Let me know down in comments. And check out some more Baking World Tour videos. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.